Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Championship Check-In podcast. Never a dull moment. We go through with a fine-tooth comb and perfect our running orders and make everything lovely. And then, within one game, we've had a sacking in the Championship already, Sam. So, before we bang through the results, in fact, I'll bang through the results, then we're going to talk about Ryan Lowe, then we're going to go to Parkin's pick, Sam. We're going to shoehorn all of this in. Give us a quick hello before I get into the results, Sam.
Hello, Ben. Hello, everyone watching. Yeah, quiet weekend to kick off, eh? Great stuff, wasn't it? I think I was just warming up for MK Dons against Bradford, and I was watching a monitor, and I was just seeing absolute mayhem at Ellen Road, which I just couldn't keep across, even though I had the score in the top left-hand corner and a nice TV screen in front of me. Absolutely glorious, the division, isn't it?
It is already, and it kicked off with Blackburn 4, Derby 2 on Friday night. Just the 6 goals and an appearance from Sammy Smodic there. Preston 0, Sheffield United 2. More of that in about a minute's time, okay? Cardiff 0, Sunderland 2, Reggie Labrie winning on debut. Hull 1, Bristol City 1. The return of Oscar Estepinian from I don't know where with a late equaliser there. As Sam alluded to, carnage at Ellen Road, as it always is. Leeds 3, Pompey 3. Middlesbrough 1. Swansea 0. Middlesbrough off. Emmanuel Latte Lath off. Millwall 2. Watford 3. Carnage. Oxford 2. Norwich 0. More about that one later as well. QPR 1. West Brom 3. And an opening day hat-trick from Josh Madger. Stoke 1. Coventry 0. And then on Sunday, by God, Sheffield Wednesday 4. And they're top of the league. Plymouth Argyle 0. Sam, we're not going to Parkin's pick. By mutual consent, Ryan Lowe, after 2.5 years, is out of Preston North End. I don't know what the hell has happened. I've just done a quick reaction, so you don't need to hear from me. One game gone. The round isn't even complete yet. Your reaction in broad terms to someone sacking their manager after one game, and in specific terms, Ryan Lowe and Preston.
Yeah, I think obviously really surprised at the timing of this decision. So you have to really question the decision makers. I think given that he's had the back end of last season, the off season, and of course bringing new players in, ready for that game against Sheffield United. So yeah, absolutely can't really understand the timing. But yeah, I thought going into this season, I said as much last week, I didn't feel it was particularly United, that camp. I thought there was a large majority of the supporters that would have wanted to change probably late winter, spring last year when Peter Risdale actually came out and backed Ryan Lowe and said that he wasn't going anywhere. I covered them a few times last season. I found it a tough watch. I think they could probably still make the playoffs. The last time I saw them against Southampton, needed snookers to a degree. It was a must-win game for both clubs, and they really didn't turn up. And that was pretty in keeping with their end-of-season form. They lost 5 on the bounce. No surprise to see them lose against a Sheffield United team who are starting to look the business squad-wise and obviously performance-wise on Friday. But I think it's a change that was probably inevitable. And Ryan Lowe, I'm sure, will walk into another job. But I think that job and that unison between the two had 100% run its course and probably was a decision that should have been made when their form really went backwards last season. I think it's probably 6 months too late.
Do you like a young coach at Preston? Because you've got this hard thing, haven't you? These clubs that are stuck in the middle, in between, can't really challenge the parachute teams. And I always maintain it's easier to go from 3rd in League One to 6th in the Championship than it is from 10th in the Championship to 6th in the Championship. What was your take?
I think Ryan Lowe has always been quite prickly, I suppose, when his future has been discussed, given, where they are in terms of resources in comparison to the teams coming down from the Premier League and the teams that are fighting right at the top of the Championship. And you could argue that. I'm sure he made them defensively incredibly stingy. the start of last season. Obviously, the previous campaign, they had that incredible start where they just weren't scoring or conceding. So I think the structure of the team is never in question. You can always fancy those three centre-halves in particular to defend their box really resolutely, but it's going the other way, isn't it? Where the supporters want more bang for their buck. And I would concur with that. You know, I've seen them quite a lot. And whether that's down to recruitment or whether that's down to Ryan Lowe's coaching methods, only people internally at that club will know. But I have been frustrated myself watching Preston and watching some of those forward players and wanting a little bit more. I know they brought in Kessler Hayden. You know, looking at the team from Friday, I can't believe that Potts and Brady are still the nominal wing backs. You know, this is a team that has played a back three with wing backs for the majority of Ryan Lowe's tenure, if not all Ryan Lowe's tenure. Yet they're still, I think, undercooked in that department. And I think it was to the detriment of some of the signings last year. You know, some of those attacking players that they had at the club weren't able to prosper. Some have moved on, some remain. And the fans will be hoping that those guys can thrill and show a little bit more flair. But again, I think it's important to say that Ryan Lowe has done an amazing job at Bury, an amazing job at Argyle, and without knowing the intricacies of their transfer dealings, he'll get another fine job, that's for sure. But absolutely, in my opinion, time for a fresh start.
There you go. You don't need to hear from me on this, guys, because I've done a separate quick reaction video that went out about an hour ago. That's Sam's take on Ryan Lowe out of Preston after one game. If you're watching live, get your takes in the comments. We'll stick them up. We appreciate everyone who downloads the audio afterwards, but you can catch me and Sam and have your say 1 p.m. every Monday and get involved with the live chat. And I just want to say a big thank you to Matt for the super chat as we went. Right, Sam, we can properly start the show now. Okay, now we covered the breaking news. We're just the 7 minutes behind. Here comes Parkin's pick. Only fair, Sam, after one game, that we go straight to the top of the Championship. Who is Parkin's pick?
Well, I will just get it in early. Any Oxford United fans shouting at the screen, you will get your moment in today's show. I'm not going to be biased for the entirety of the Championship season with my Swindon Town roots, but I think Sheffield Wednesday, given what they put out there yesterday, the most resounding win of the weekend, exemplary in all departments, got to be the Owls.
Right, so I need you to frame this for me, Sam, because I understand the Owls fans being so excited. They finished last season, they were the 7th best team over the last 23 games. Everyone thinks Danny Roll's brilliant. Everyone loved him on the Euro coverage. They go into the start of this season. They smashed the first game 4-0. But Plymouth were awful. And we need to talk about Wayne Rooney and the situation there. Where are you with Wednesday? Do we need to temper the optimism and the excitement here, or are they right to be kind of carried away here, the Wednesday fans?
No, I think the supporters that watch them week in, week out will be realistic about this season's targets. I think it's only fun and right and natural to have that excitement. But I think, you know, given how last season went and probably some of the squads in the division in comparison, it's still going to be a tough ask to be in the higher echelons. I think they can be really hopeful of being in the top half. You know, I think I said that on last week's podcast, or certainly they were my surprise package going into the season, given how well they did with, you know, not a particularly bloated squad or quality squad last season. You look at the side from yesterday, the fullbacks immediately jump out to me. Valerie on one side and Lowe on the other. I think there was times last season when he played 4 centre-halves across the back, and that was probably the predicament that they were in. And now they've got really flying, attacking wing-backs who are going to take the game to the opposition. So I thought that was a standout moment for me. I think we spoke often about the imbalance in the midfield, and Barry Bannon looks to have the the perfect partner, or certainly someone to really complement what he brings in Ingleson. I mean, his take and his delivery for Jamal Lowe's opening goal was a
Hold your
thing of
fire. We
beauty.
haven't got to Worldie of the Week yet, Sam. Move on.
Yeah, that was a thing of beauty. And every kind of ingredient you want from a team: a good goalkeeper, they got that; solid centre halves, pace in the wide areas. At the moment, if I was put on the spot, I'd say Jamal Lowe, despite his fine debut, he's not someone I'm going to bank on, getting double figures maybe in the Championship. But with Ike Ugbo now waiting in the wings, I said last week again that I thought that was the kind of final piece in the jigsaw to get them towards the top half of the division. And nothing's going to change my mind after that outstanding win. So, yeah, it was a great display, and he just continues to impress, doesn't he? The manager they've got, he's going to kind of win them loads of points, isn't he? Because he's that good, a manager and a coach from what we've seen. He overachieved with that squad last year. Now he's getting the squad to match his qualities.
Yeah, and the confidence is a huge thing as well, isn't it? Because you remember the start of last season where they couldn't buy a point, Sheffield Wednesday, and they're coming into this one. And we do have to temper all this by saying that it does feel like where Plymouth were yesterday, that most teams would have beaten Wednesday. There was a comment in the chat as we were going, really excited, but realistically still be happy in the top 10. Is that we don't necessarily imagine Wednesday are going to be smashing out an automatic promotion challenge, but this is great improvement from where they've been, isn't it?
Yeah, and you can't discount that, because look at some of the storylines we've had in the last few seasons. Luton being up there, and Coventry. I think Sunderland was a surprise when they got in the playoffs. So
Huddersfield,
I absolutely, you can't rule anything out. And like I said, the manager is that good. Is the depth there? Not sure, but the balance of that side that they were able to put out there was superb. I think, my opinion on Argyle is you just have to hold back, because the national narrative now, the people who don't cover the intricacies of the Championship and the Football League will be out for Wayne Rooney. Let's just give him a little bit of time. I think he's conducted himself brilliantly this summer. I understand that the lads have really taken to him.
Sam, can I just debate with you though? This is horrible. 4.59 XG Sheffield Wednesday got, and you can argue that anyone going in there was going to struggle, given how Plymouth ended last season with the director of football coming in. But I take your point. Let's not get ridiculous. 10 shots on target Wednesday had as well. It was a dreadful performance, wasn't it, Sam? You got to admit that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and hugely in contrast to last season. If you remember them going to Watford and being quite un-Argyle-like in being really defensively well set up. And I know the away record wasn't good last season, but I just thought it was a valid point to make that comparison. I think there's an argument to say that he maybe tried to blood too many new players. When you look at Hardy came on, didn't he? I think Randall was on the bench. I think there was options there, and clearly the players didn't look like they had that chemistry yet, which is understandable when you've brought in Paulson, the new fullback, Sissoko, obviously in the wide positions, Tajani up front, but not to have any kind of attempts of note, really. I think there was a couple, wasn't there, maybe late in the second half, 7 touches in the box. The new striker I just referenced didn't have a shot. I don't think Whittaker had much of an impact at all. So, all the things that have been good and all the things we were hopeful about didn't really come out in that performance. So, loads of concern, but it's one game. And I'm not going to get too carried away. Like I said on previous podcasts, I'm someone who is really, I'm sceptical about Wayne Rooney as a manager, but I'm hopeful because I like a lot about what he says and how he articulates himself as a pundit now. And I admire him for taking this gig. So hopefully this isn't a sign of things to come, and they can get some points on the board quickly just to alleviate. Yeah, obviously, I don't like the what's the terminology? The jump on, or whatever you call it.
Pylon.
The pylon. Sorry, because I just turned and flicked the radio on a couple of times today, and it seems to be one of the lead stories, and that's probably because there was only one game in the Championship yesterday. But come on, let's give the guy a chance. And that's the players yesterday, lethargic. Was it the second goal? I think it was Gazzama on the left-hand side. Whoever put the ball in, I can't quite remember. But there was two players in the vicinity. Nobody went to stop the cross. The last goal was kind of pre-season. The way that Bannon was just stroking it around on the left-hand side. It was the Olays were out, weren't it? So, and another thing, the goalkeeper situation. I'm not sure entirely what's going on there, but you got your best goalkeeper on the bench at the moment. I don't think if they're going to play better football than Hazard, who was in the goal yesterday, he probably couldn't do anything about the goals, granted. But I think if you're going to want to play a little bit more through the centre halves, you need a keeper who's a little bit more adept at doing so.
There you go. I'll round this out by saying amazing start by Sheffield Wednesday, but we're clearly going to learn more as we can see them tested against some different opposition who are maybe a little more ready. I agree with Sam's take. It's very easy to personalise all of this to Rooney just because he's such a big name, but it does feel a bit silly, but we'll see how it all pans out. Sam, you did want to give a shout out because we couldn't find place in the running order for Josh Maja, who was very close to being Parkin's pick. Did you ever score a hat-trick on opening day?
I did, yeah. My Swindon debut.
No way, yeah. Opening day?
Opening day against Barnsley, yeah, at the County Ground. So I'm part of that club. I wish Josh...
That's elite company, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I wish Josh Maja hadn't done it at QPR, but the first thing that jumped out to me was like, that's got to be the missing piece of their jigsaw, right? If they can get someone poaching them goals
not necessarily
on a regular
him,
basis.
But yeah, exactly, someone poaching goals.
Yeah, I mean, they played a false nine last year frequently. DK was up there. I think Thomas Asante he's a really good Championship player. He's becoming a really good Championship player, but I don't think he's probably an out-and-out goal scorer, maybe. I think he was just into double figures, maybe, or just, 11 goals last season. Swift with 9, who was the conductor of that victory at QPR. But enjoyed the first goal. The third goal possibly came off done. The one that sandwich, the one that was in between those two. But I scored one of my Exeter debuts similar to that, where you get a little glance on it and it maybe comes off the defender. So I'm not going to take it away from him. But yeah, absolutely. In a Carlos Corberán side who is incredibly well organised and they're incredibly well coached, to get Maja back to where he was, 4 or 5 years ago now? He was incredible young talent who everybody was having a look at. And during that Sunderland documentary, you saw initially the impact that he had there. So he's a talent. I think it's just about getting his focus. If he can get a run in the side, no doubt that he could be a real surprise package this season.
Yeah, fair play. Hat-trick on opening day for Josh Maja. So some honourable mentions there for Ocford and Josh Maja. But Parkin's pick is Sheffield Wednesday on week 1, top of the league, 4-0 winners. And we're moving on to Worldie of the Week. Right, I put the poll out earlier, Sam, so I can give you some up-to-date scorelines before you decide who the winner is. I didn't put Gustavo Hamer in my 5 because I thought it was all, the keeper threw it to him. It's a good finish, but I didn't like it for that reason. But there's a few shouts for him. So with 6%, Mayulu for Bristol City in 5th. With 12%, Cameron Brannigan for Ocford. With 13%, Georgi Chakfatadze for Watford at Millwall. 21%, Jamal Lowe, that girl you mentioned already. But the chat has a standout winner, 48%, Sam. Callum Lang and his, what would you call that? Drilled strike into the corner. Do you agree? What is your worldie of the week, Sam?
I think it has to be Callum Lang. It just kind of drew gasps, didn't it? I think the context, which I don't like to go on too heavily because it's about the execution and the finish itself, and how it's manufactured in some stakes. But I just thought it was a brilliant strike. I loved Marlon Pack's involvement for the first goal. I just wanted to get that out there. If we're talking about Pompey for a moment, his reverse pass for the first was absolutely tremendous. And Lang, it was a difficult ball to take. His touch was, I wouldn't say clumsy, but it was a little bit unorthodox, but it just set up so beautifully for him to strike. And yeah, it was kind of same height the whole way, wasn't it? Travelling towards the back of the net. So yeah, I thought it was a brilliant goal, brilliant game. And he could be a big player, Callum Lang. I like him. He's athletic enough to, make that step. And I think that's something that maybe goes under the radar a little bit. That step from League One to Championship. Yeah, athleticism is high on the agenda. He's a powerful boy. He's very willing. I think he'll be a big goal threat for Pompey this year. So brilliant for him to get up and running with a couple of goals. But yeah, I liked Mayulu's as well. I thought that was a brilliant take and finish.
Pretty unique, that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. You don't see many like that. That was a great finish in a game that was lacking a little bit quality in the end product. There seemed to be loads of openings between Hull and Bristol City, but just couldn't find that little bit of quality. So that certainly was that. And I loved the Hashies, actually. To have the confidence to do that. He'd have been desperate to get a goal, like Vyman on his debut, and Smodic's already had his moment. So I thought Ahashi finished brilliantly to cap that victory. So some good ones, but for me, context and execution, Lang by probably a bit of a distance this week.
Let's just talk briefly, Sam, about Leeds, because just classic textbook popcorn box office fodder Leeds United, wasn't it? Where in my head, they were going to go out like a train this season and, hit 20 points fairly quickly. And in my head, as I said on the predictions, they were going to comfortably beat Portsmouth on opening day. But one of those, wasn't it? And again, you can bring up the stats and the missed chances and the hitting the crossbars. You got to win the game. I didn't expect to. I thought we might get I'm sure we still will, but I thought we might, right from the word go, get a very efficient looking Leeds machine this season. But yeah, classic. They should have won the game at the end, shouldn't they? With that Aronson drag. What was your take?
Oh, it's a great point for Pompey. Let's not get away from that. Despite Leeds equalising in the last knock-ins, when you consider that Aronson's gone in 1-on-1 after that, I think that probably sums the game up really in a nutshell. They should have won the game, but Pompey are resilient. They never give in. They got some real quality, and they've been disrupted. Let's not forget that by some bad luck already in terms of injuries. Their two strikers are not available right now, and a debutant comes in, gets a goal, but there's other players that are going to play a big part for Pompey that are not around at the moment. So they'll get better with the experience. I think it's going to be a difficult start for them. I really do. I think it'll be tough to get a flying start. But yeah, Leeds created loads, and I was absolutely hoping. Well, I wasn't hoping because I've got a mate on the staff at Pompey, so obviously I wanted them to get off to a reasonably good start. But I kind of tipped Aronson to go big this season last week on another platform, and I think he could be a big player for Leeds. It's probably going to be a test of his mettle to respond from that poor decision to probably be a little bit precise with that last finish. But big goal for him. Important not to lose on opening day, and I think we saw Leeds' power still, certainly going forward. Two fullbacks I wanted to touch on as well. I thought it was a bit of a lack of kind of attacking potency maybe from the fullback. They didn't really get involved, and I think in the system they need the fullbacks to get involved. Last season I'm talking about, so Bogle and Firpo, continuing his form from last season. I think they look like, again, going to be really front-footed and just need to marry that with better defending. And no question they're going to be up there in my mind, not getting carried away.
I think what I didn't say very articulately, if that's the general standard of what Leeds do and create one way and the other throughout the majority of the season, I think they're going to be all right, is what I was attempting to say, but terribly inarticulately. Let's move on, and it is time for the first time this season for Cause for Concern. And we're talking Swansea City, Sam. It was a bit downbeat from Luke Williams in his post-match interview. They've gone away to Middlesbrough, who are being tipped to bounce back, from in the playoffs, out of the playoffs, back into the playoffs. And lots of ticks in the box for Middlesbrough. First win, first clean sheet, first goal for Latte Lath. But Luke Williams sort of talking about players not quite being up to standard. And he also said, Sam, I'd be interested in your take on this as a player, having to walk over to the away fans at the end of the game. He says he found it so hard because it wasn't like they were unlucky to lose and that they'd kind of let them down, which is very honest on the one hand, but I don't know. Do you want to be hearing that immediately if you're a Swansea fan at the start of the season? There are cause for concern this week.
Yeah, I think, all managers to a degree will be perfectionists. I think the nature of the job now it's one that requires a lot of hours, a lot of detail. And Luke is, I would say, at the higher end of that scale. He knows exactly how he wants his team to play and what he wants them to execute. So to not get that, to be too open as well, to give up so many chances will be the frustration. I think they are looking a little bit light in attack as well, but I think you can be balanced because last season, I think only 2 teams in the outside the top 10 scored more than Swansea, if that makes sense. So in the bottom half, they were, one of the better teams offensively going forward. And I think, what he's alluding to is, players that have come in during the summer that still need a little bit of time, and that's time on the training ground and probably minutes they can get in the EFL Cup this week. And minutes that will be drip fed into them off the bench. So I'm talking about Vivotnik, the Slovenian that's been brought in, decent pedigree. Quite excited to see him. I think he name checked him in that interview you referenced. Yom Ji-sung, I think, did pretty well in terms of his quality with the ball, but he's going to need a little bit of time to get up to speed. And Abdoulaye was in there, another player who's not had many first team minutes before. So it's a little bit of the unknown with Swansea at the moment, but I think, in time, probably with 1 or 2 more additions, I'm not sure how much depth they've got defensively either, we'll have a better gauge as to how the season's going to go. But in terms of a first day, in a game where they would have been optimistic they could get something, despite, I think we spoke about it on last week's pod, they lost quite comfortably towards the tail end of last season at the Riverside. It was a bit of a no-show, you look at the statistics as well. I think there was there 1 shot on target maybe for Swansea across the piece. 1 half opportunity I saw Aidan Morris, who, from what I've seen, looks an incredible find for Middlesbrough. He did give 1 ball away, which was nearly turned in by Cullen. But Morris in all the highlights I've seen looks like a standout for Borough. So no disgrace losing there. They're going to be up around the playoffs. And Swansea, much room for improvement after opening day.
I'm going to put Luke Williams just behind Paul Warne now on my most refreshingly honest interviews from managers. I think sometimes there's a reason why they're a bit
I used to
talking code.
I used to interview him down at Swindon when he had his brief spell as manager there, and he'd never shirk any question.
No.
Do you know what I mean? He loved talking football as well. One of those interviews I'd come out of and I'd go back over it and think, I've actually learned something about tactics and about the way that teams want to play. Listen, I wouldn't pretend that I know him brilliantly, but he's one of the people that made a mark on me in terms of the way that he demands his football teams play. I've never met too many people who, there is the way that he wants to play out and the responsibility he wants his defenders, in particular and his goalkeeper, to take the ball, no matter how it's going, no matter, if there's been mistakes, if there's pressure, if the crowd are on, keep doing what I instruct you. And I think he's very, very set in how he believes football should be played. So it's not going to change. I think Notts County success under him and what they were showed you exactly what he's about. And I think Swansea, with the resources, could have a good season this year.
There you go. Cause for optimism at the end of Cause for Concern. Here comes We Need to Talk About. And Sam, this week I'm going to lead off and get your take as an ex-player on player power, players getting their heads turned. His head's not right. I'm not in a fit state to play. And we're talking about Johnny Rowe of Norwich City. By the way, there's a poll in the live chat at the moment saying, should Johnny Rowe have started for Norwich at Oxford despite current transfer interest? 66% say he should have started. And 34%, higher than I thought it would be actually, given what I'm about to say, Sam, defend Johnny Rowe's decision if he didn't think he was right to not play. So, Sam, let me put this to you. And the problem, I think, for Johnny Rowe is we've also got the example set by Sammy Smodic on Friday night this week, where, first of all, I've got sympathy for players and I've got sympathy for managers that we have this ridiculous transfer window that goes 4 or 5 games into the season and agents and whatnot are talking whilst you're trying to prep for the new season and get started. I get that that's not ideal, and I felt so sorry for the new Norwich manager trying to deal with all of this moving parts, and essentially you're fixing the plane while it's already flying through the air. But from John Eustace's interview for Blackburn, my understanding is Sammy Smodic is being wrapped in cotton wool, and there's a collaborative thing between the two of them where, I'm going to bring you into it. Are you good? It's on you. You don't have to play. We're negotiating. If you're not right, don't play. But not only does Smodic come on, he scores and gets an assist and does his Superman act for Blackburn. Then the very next day, you've got Norwich with their new manager, and this idea of this lag in transition from Norwich, Sam, where I think we were saying they needed to be recycling the team last season and just kind of kept sticking with it, playoffs, and then got thrashed by Leeds. Gabriel Sara has gone, and then Johnny Rowe, we understand, on the morning of the game. So this is not, on Friday, Gaffer, I don't think I should travel. I don't want to get injured. My head's not in it, blah, blah, blah. This is the morning of the game. And I understand some Norwich fans being very angry about that. Due to Rowe's kind of lack of commitment. You're paid by the club. You haven't been sold. They haven't accepted a bid. Get out there. You're a star man. Go and win the game for your team and leave on a high if you are gonna leave. But I do understand, from the players' point of view, and they're young men living in a fantasy world, aren't they? Tell me, as a player, Sam, what's the right thing to do? You're at Oxford. You're being linked with Leeds and Marseille. You think you're going to go? Should you pull out and not play?
Everyone's different. Is the first thing I'd say. I'd be very surprised if this is the decision that has been made by the player alone. I think that's probably important to get out there. I'm not suggesting that this was a amicable decision between Rowe and Norwich. I think probably in certain cases, someone in the players' camp will be having a sway on this. My decisions often were probably based on what would my teammates, what would my mates think of me. And it takes a pretty single-minded character to make that decision off your own back and probably face the disappointment of your teammates when you have to return to the training ground inevitably in the days to come. So Not ideal. Not ideal from a tactical standpoint. Not ideal for the new manager having to change things around last minute, and not ideal that it doesn't look like this move is imminent. I mean, cue it going ahead this afternoon or whatever, but he's going to have to go and be around the players. So my way of doing it would have been to do what Sammy Smodics is doing. I mean, your confidence is going to be sky high for a start. Let's say that. I mean, Smodics and Rowe are both coming off unbelievable seasons, right? Smodics is taking to the field and knowing he's going to score. Jonathan Rowe should be able to go out there and be the catalyst for Norwich to get early season points. The one thing is, obviously, there is always a concern of injury. And I think if we're talking, Ben, about the last game of the season, I'd have more sympathy for the player right now. And I think in certain cases in my career, not that I was about to secure a multi-million pound move, but sometimes if you're moving on or you got other things going on, the manager may come to you and say, look, what are you thinking about the last game of the season? Do you want to be involved? Can I, I might play a young lad if there's nothing to play for. So I would understand it more if it was a kind of dead rubber at the end of the season. But yeah, disappointing, I think, to see that over the weekend, and thoroughly disappointing for the Norwich fans who have obviously only been treated really to one season from him. A top quality performer he was. I think the right way to go about it is to roll your sleeves up. Yes, you've got to look after yourself. You've got to be, you're not going to play with a niggle. You're not going to play if you've got a bit of tightness, if the move's on the cusp. But I think you do yourself a lot better by going out there and continue to perform for your employer.
100%. And in the game, pretty impressive by Ocford in the end. I know Norwich were very bad and disjointed, but Ocford were ready for them, Sam. I know you didn't see it. I looked at it on the watch along, and in the you can only beat what's put in front of you terms, we saw exactly what we saw. I think were you at the League One playoff final? Did you do that for TV?
No, I wasn't. I was at the first leg of the Oxford Posh. Yeah, Oxford Posh in the first leg, where Peterborough changed to a degree their style. Really gave Oxford respect. Oxford had battered them, hadn't they? I think in a couple of months preceding that game. I backed. Last week when we discussed it, I went for a Norwich win. I thought Oxford might start really fast and get that impetus from the opening day. But again, not to cover my own tracks, I think they've made some of the most eye-catching signings of the summer, Oxford. They have got a real momentum and feel good from the tail end of the last campaign. They've got a real clever, savvy manager. I probably would question...
That was what I was going to say. The similarities with the playoff final against Bolton, where they were up against a team who were going to try and play through the thirds, and kind of just sat and watched it, and then bam, in they went. So I think Oxford might be an annoying opponent for teams building from the back this season as well, mightn't they?
Yeah, and all the exciting kind of young players that they've brought in that have shown potential in League One and what have you. To bring someone like Will Volks in, to bring Phillips in, some real experienced guys as well, and to give Brannigan a bit of help in that midfield so he can get in the box. I like him when he's deep and he can get on the ball and he can be the starter of the moves because he's that gifted as a footballer. But to see him getting in the box, he could be a good shout for 8-10 goals for Oxford United this season, given he's on set pieces as well. So I think that's a really good bit of business. Important for the striker as well, because I think ultimately seasons are going to be defined somewhat by how many goals you can conjure as a promoted side. And I would absolutely question, are Oxford going to get enough goals? Are they going to have enough forward players to contribute in that regard for Harris to start, who gives you so much, without the ball, particularly because he's non-stop. For him to get a goal off the bat is really important. But yeah, I tip Norwich to win, but I'm not surprised if I can say that. And I think Oxford, Oxford could be the ones to get a fast start. Listen, I'm not suggesting that they're going to stay in the division. I think it's going to be an incredible battle for them, and it'd probably go to the wire, and they would absolutely take one place outside the relegation zone now, I'm sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if in 3 months' time we're talking about them maybe accumulating the most points out of the promoted sides.
Interesting. We're going to go to Mouthwatering matchup. What we're going to do, we're going to put the quiz in between. So I'll bang through the fixtures. You let us know your Mouthwatering matchups in the chat, and then we'll round out the show with it. Speaking of Oxford, I'm going to be watching them again on Friday on the watch along. Coventry versus Oxford. It's the legal derby going back a couple of seasons between Derby and Middlesbrough. Pompey versus Luton. Have I got the right? Yeah, I've got the right bloody. I've got the wrong week up on my iPad and the right week up on my phone. There we go. West Brom versus Leeds. Those are the 12:30s on Saturday. It's Bristol City, Millwall, Burnley, Cardiff, Norwich, Blackburn, Plymouth, Hull, Sheffield United, QPR, Swansea, Preston, Watford, Stoke, and on Sunday we have Sunderland versus Sheffield Wednesday. Right. Are you ready for quiz time, Sam?
Ready as I'll ever be, mate.
Let's run the sting so I can clear my brain. Right, what we're going to try and do this season is 6 of the best every week. So it'll be the same quiz each and every week with different topics. Sam, this is from our good man Fev's Football Analytics on Twitter. So you have to list 6 of something, but you only need to get 3 right to get to end game. So you basically get 6 guesses to get 3, if you know what I mean. Are you ready for your week 1 6 of the best questions, Sam?
I'm going first, am I? Shoot.
Unless you want me to shoot. Unless you want me to go first. But no, you can go first. Can you name 3 of the 6 youngest players that played in the Championship this weekend? Close down the live chat because they'll put them in the live chat. 3 of the 6 youngest players, Sam.
Right, I've got the teams in front of me. I'm allowed that, aren't I?
You're allowed that,
I have not got a Scooby. What about Gilchrist? Alfie Gilchrist, is he, 19, Sheffield United?
He's not there. That is your first guess, Sam.
Right, that's Friday night games out of the way. Sunderland.
Hello.
Starters or just minutes?
Just appeared.
You know? Rig.
Rig is in there. You've got 1. That's your second guess.
So Bellingham.
Yes. You got 2. You're 1 off.
Just because I just was about to say his name, but then was fearful that I was going to butcher it. What about Freddie Asaka at, is it Asaka at Plymouth?
He's not on the list, so that's your 4th guess.
Blaster? Blaster?
No, that's your 5th guess. 1 more guess, Sam. You got 2 though, so you're looking good.
What about, let's go closer to home. What about Collie at QPR?
No, but Daniel Benny of QPR was on the list. So you got 2, Sam. So it was Chris Rigg, Gabriel Forsyth, who came on for Norwich, who you're probably never going to get. No. Daniel Benny, Joe Bellingham, Emre Tezgel of Stoke, and Kean Best of Preston. This is the point where I'm now worried that Fev's put the oldest players as my question because I'm not going to have a Scooby. Is it, Sam?
I had a little read up on Tezgel at the weekend because he was at MK Dons last year. I should have got that. Right, yeah, you are named 3 of the 6 oldest players that played in the Championship this weekend. Same style. Yeah, you need.
What about Liam Palmer for Sheffield Wednesday? Would he be 1?
No Liam Palmer.
I was thinking in terms of appearances there. Let's scratch that game off. Did McFadzean get in for Blackburn? McFadzean, did he come on?
No.
No.
0 from 2.
Yeah, whatever. Watford, the midfielder, Sissoko.
Correct.
Yes.
1 out of 3.
That'll do me. I've got 1. Portsmouth, you mentioned Marlon Pack.
No, but I will say that a teammate of his.
For Pompey.
So you got 1 from 4. 2 to win it.
Sean Raggett still at Pump? No, is he gone down from there?
Went to Rotherham.
No, I'm struggling with that. I'm not going to get the Pompey player. I'm thinking Oxford, Norwich. What about Hanley or Duffy? Duffy of Norwich.
Nope.
How many guesses have I got left?
You got one more guess for the tie.
Oh my God. QPR and West Brom must have old players, mustn't they?
I'll give you the team. QPR for the draw.
Colback. No, Cook.
Correct.
Colback.
I'll have to take your first. I'll have to take your first answer. Colback gives you the point.
Which was correct. Oh, we're equal on the first day. How did they go? How did they go in the chat? Was Barry read them out? I was seeing Barry Bannon there.
No, I haven't seen anything. I don't think there's Johnny Howson.
Oh, okay. I should have got Johnny Howson. God.
Kyle Norton and Craig Forsyth at Derby
Who was the
three that
Pompey
you
player?
didn't get. Matt Ritchie.
Oh, never mind. There you go. 6 of the best. Let's get into our mouth-watering matchup. Suggest them in the chat. So, Sam, we have gone for one of the 2 games between 2 sides that already won, but we don't think we've mentioned these 2 sides. We've gone for Watford again, actually. Watford versus Stoke. Both sides off to kind of surprising wins, really. Watford winning at Millwall, I didn't expect that, and everyone's been bigging up Coventry. Stoke got the win there. The mouthwatering matchup, really the question is, and we'll get into the predictions, can you see either of those going 2 for 2?
Why not? I think there's been a lot of doom and gloom, hasn't there, around Watford at the start of this season. A lot of draws under Tom Cleverley at the end of last season. I think easy to say on a Monday after a 3-2 thriller at Millwall, but they could be quite good fun this year. I just think they've got talent, Watford, and they might not have brilliant structure and brilliant consistency, and that's going to be Tom Cleverley's battle. But to discount them as kind of relegation fodder, I think is probably too strong. They've still got some good players in that squad. They still got good resources, I would say, to attract players despite the mayhem that sometimes surrounds them. So I wasn't too surprised at this result. Millwall obviously had a standout performance from Duncan Watmore. I think someone's mentioned in the chat, but yeah, that was a fine way for them to start. Watford, again, it's very difficult to predict exactly what their season's gonna hold, but I don't see them, as Jack has just said on the chat, I don't see them being, a team that are going to be certainly fighting relegation. But I expect another open-ish game against Stoke, who I think were very good value for the win. I think Steven Schumacher has always been a really front foot manager, and he's got loads of attacking talent. I think it's still questionable as to, who their main sources of goals going to be, but they've certainly got options up there. I thought the most important thing for them was to show, real defensive solidity. Johansson's going to be a good signing. I like Gibson and Wilmot in terms of their experience, and they've got to be strong because they got 2 fullbacks who want to bomb forward. So yeah, I thought that was a really nice way to start the season. I like Lewis Baker. I think there's a bit of speculation about his future. He obviously really lost his way, or his career just plateaued for a year or two, where he was stuck at Chelsea actually subsequently in the 23s, unable to move out. Stoke took a punt with him, and I think he's really repaid them in the main. So he could still be a big player, really technically efficient, good striker of a ball.
Sam, you're doing it again, mate. You're falling for Stoke. Don't do it. They always let you down.
No, I think my reluctance to tip them, as I do every year,
me too,
to be anything better than a disappointment is just that forward line. How's it going to look? Who's going to be consistent? That's still, for me, after all those signings last summer, I'm just not sure if they're going to be able to get the not necessarily the numbers, but the performances and the consistent front players when you compare to the other 5 or 6 clubs that we're expecting to be jostling. That's still my concern. I just think it could be one outstanding victory one week or a couple of sporadic runs here and there, and never really that consistency to forge their way into contention.
There you go. Mouthwatering matchup is Watford and Stoke, and that'll do us for just an incredibly busy first week. And I want to just say on behalf of both of us, thank you for the magnificent support. And it doesn't even exaggerate to say the tens of thousands of you that have joined us in this first week for the predictions, for the live broadcast here on YouTube, for the clips we put out, for the audio version of the podcast. We really want to try and grow this season, and we really, really do appreciate all your guys' support. Once I'm out of this boiling hot office, we're coming back actually to do the predictions. So do check them out. We'll drop them Tuesday or Wednesday at some point, and we'll be back each and every week for the Championship Check-In podcast every Monday at 1. Sam, last word from you, mate. You're on a eventful first weekend in the Championship, which is not even over yet.
Yeah, it's been a great weekend, and maybe, well, certainly in terms of a heavyweight clash, the best could yet still be to come. So, enjoy tonight's game. Thanks for watching as always, and see you here same time next week.